Okay, so today's topic is something that we've pretty much gone over a lot of it. So we've hit this kind of with a dead horse, I feel, because we've got a whole class in fitness training that you're going to do. So I'll say we're going to go through it pretty quick, and then we'll get to some discussion things at the end. So here's their terminologies here. Muscular fitness is enough strength to do strength, endurance, speed to do whatever sport you're doing. Muscular strength is the maximum amount of effort in one single effort. Most of the time we call that a 1 rep max. Muscular endurance is your muscle's ability to do something continuously. So, and just make sure you read over those before. Oh yeah, my other side note. I got new PowerPoints. So the newest edition of our coaching book came out like Friday. I got an email. And so I immediately downloaded all the PowerPoints. So if something is on your quiz that's not in what I talk about, make sure I know that so that I can. I read the book, the old book, and the new PowerPoint together to try to make sure nothing happened. I wasn't missing anything. But if something's on one of your quizzes that you're like, we never talked about anything about that, let me know so I can make sure I get it in there. So you'll have your speed, your power, and flexibility. Again, those are things that we pretty much have gone over. Kind of an interesting thing here where they have your amount of force and repetitions, and it's kind of a neat little curve here. Your strength ones are going to be weightlifting. Short-term muscular endurance would be baseball, softball, gymnastics, our American football. Some of those intermediate ones are basketball, all the way through volleyball there. Your long-term ones are going to be distance things, cycling, cross-country, and such. So it's just interesting how you go that from a maximum to minimum force to how many kind of repetitions there. Small review from 2 other classes. Muscles, I love how their terminologies here are just like wonderful wrap-ups of everything. They're so non-scientific in some ways. Muscles have a bulging body that tapers at the ends to a narrow tendon which is attached to a bone. Tendons have less elastic, so that'd be this part here, and are stronger than muscles. The muscles are pullers to shorten and contract. Muscles usually work around joints. Here's one I wanted you. Tell the person next to you, what do you remember from other classes about concentric, eccentric, and isometric? All right, Thomas, what do you guys remember about concentric action? Go, Bal, go. What do you remember about concentric action? Correct. Describe that motion to me a little more. Shortening of the muscle. Good. What do you gentlemen on the right there, my right, remember about eccentric action?
It's like negatives where you're going the opposite direction.
Okay. Isometric.
You're not moving, but like it's still doing work.
That'd be like trying to lift this table. It's not moving, but my muscles are extending. What were you saying you do 5 minutes of every practice? Huh? Yeah, that would be an isometric. I used to make my players do wall sits, and then I'd have them do like hand-eye coordination stuff. So I'd give them like 2 tennis balls or 1 tennis ball, and they had to like drop it around their arm and then drop it around their arm, all while they were doing wall sits. It was just mostly to distract them from from the fact that they were doing wall sits. Other ones, I'd have them like take a tennis ball as their wall sit and they'd bounce it underneath them. They were terrible at that one. They ended up rolling all over the gym, especially when they got tired. All right, so those are pretty much, you guys pretty much got it. The eccentric are the ones that are going to give you the most muscle soreness. Be falling down. Physiology, exercise phys in chapter 2, second day of class, third day of class. Muscles contain lots of fibers. There's a nervous system that tells the muscles to contract. The nerves and the fibers are called a motor unit together. And when the nerve is told to contract, all the fibers control it. It's actually like the exact same picture from Exercise Phys. That's one thing I had to laugh at. I was like, they totally stole that out of the other book. I was going to ask Luis, how was your futsal game last night? Oh, did you win? Did you beat him? I didn't know JT was a soccer player. Oddly enough, we had a soccer team at Lodi for 1 year, which was awesome because we had this. He was a prep grad, and then he went to PUC or did he go to Walla Walla after that? I don't remember. Anyways, for some crazy reason, this dude, born in the U.S., went to prep, has an English accent. His parents have an English accent. Is where he tells me he gets it from. And for some reason, this English teacher was like, oh, I love soccer. I'll coach the girls' soccer team. They scored 1 goal the entire season in the last game against the worst team. And we were so excited. I quit asking them how'd the game go, and I would ask, did you guys score a goal? That's how bad they were. Well, our best player we put in the back for defense because at least they would know when to kick the ball away so that it wouldn't get a score. Like she at least had played like pee-wee soccer at one point in her life. So like it's not a small thing to say, I just play defense. So yeah, muscle soreness, we pretty much all got that. So some of them might be because you've actually torn something. You want little micro tears because those are the ones that are going to repair and make your muscles bigger. But when they're severely strained, they might be torn and might bleed. My father-in-law. When we first started dating, my father-in-law was a really good skier back in the day. Now, the thing is, when my wife was born, my father-in-law was 42 years old and my mother-in-law was 39. So when my wife is now 25 years old and we're dating, and my father-in-law is like 65-ish, almost 70, he decided to try barefooting out behind this weak-powered boat. Well, he tried to step off of skis to go barefooting because he was just trying to show off. It's the one time I've been on the boat in the backyard there of that house. He stepped off with the first foot. That one he got in. Well, then he still has 1 foot on a ski, and that ski decided his weight got off and his foot went forward. And he basically, this almost 70-year-old guy, does the splits, and he barely got back into the boat. Like, it's a good thing he had a life jacket on, because he was just he let go and he lay there like, oh, my hamstring. He tore his muscle enough that it bruised. So that's just an example of a severely strained muscle fiber. When torn, at least close to the surface, it'll look like a big bruise. He probably should have gone to the hospital and gotten it checked out, but he ended up being fine. So both of them respond quickly by releasing fluid, which will bring swelling. So like, my knee right now likes to swell up for no stupid reason after I play basketball. Keeping going so we can get to other stuff. When athletes train too hard, their muscles can get sore. Luis, are you sore after your game? Not nearly as bad as the last one. It was all that warm up and cool down, right? So your goal as a coach is to design a training program that's going to follow a progression principle to minimize muscle soreness and maximize muscular fitness. Now, I can tell you that I've not done a ton with like high school and middle school students. I've never had a high school student pull a muscle. I don't know how that is. I mean, my warm-ups are running the offense. So I don't do a ton of it, but I have noticed that like the older they get, like my college team, that warm-up and cool down become a little more important. Even if you just have them stretch in the center circle like the guys do here, I would do it before and after, because you're just going to have, especially in NAIA where you're going to have older players, like over 25, the chances of having muscle soreness and strains are going to go up a lot when they clear their 20s. JT, have you had high school students with like pull a muscle during games or during practice? Really? Apparently it's a little more important. Like I've just never, either my players don't work hard enough or that's the last slide of this presentation is overtraining. So flexibility is obviously a good one to work on. Lack of flexibility, and these are the ones we usually forget about, in the back, hamstrings, and abs are usually a pretty common cause for back pain. That one I can admit that I've seen high schoolers get. Like if you have a high schooler come to you like, man, my back hurts. Well, it's probably due to their hams or their core not being strong. So that's the one I would teach them how to stretch it and then teach them how to strengthen those. I definitely got problems with my hams. My hamstrings are not that strong. So resistance training, we all pretty much know what that is. So designing your training programs of your athletes with muscular training or resistance training is very important. All the different types of ones there. You have variable machines. I don't have any of those on here. Fixed resistance machines, free weights, bands are not a bad thing. That's what I did for my basketball team during training weeks, is we actually had them there. I probably can bring them down into the weight room. I didn't think about that. I've never had a weight room available to a high school team, but that's probably something I'm going to add to next year's conditioning weeks. Is we're going to alternate being in the weight room and being in the gym for runs. I love variable resistance. We just don't have them here. Those are great things. So muscular fitness testing is best conducted by a certified strength and conditioning specialist, which is the TNT of weight training class. So if you want to take that next quarter, that's another one where we'll review a lot of things, but it's all in preparation of that exam at the end of the class. So testing helps coaches and you identify what they need to improve and then set goals for those players. So flexibility tests, you can have the old school sit and reach test where you just put tape on the ground. I tried the sit and reach with prep the other day. Matt Lee had their sit and reach stuff out. And they were like, Coach, we want to see how flexible you are. I was like, you're going to be disappointed, because they don't know that I've done gymnastics for over a decade. And so I can beat most of my students already in the flexibility one. Not as much as I used to. I used to go a lot, like I had like 16 inches, I think is what I had, past my hand or past my foot. But there was one kid that the guy that's on the end of my basketball bench got like 21 inches. I'm like, man, he beat me out of the water. So that dude's got really loose hamstrings. Yeah, he got almost his elbow past. Yeah, it was nuts. The back scratch test, which is the one on the right here. So those are all just some examples there. You can do a 1 rep max test. Just make sure you prep them first. I don't remember which class. One of the classes we're going to do the YMCA bench test, which is like putting a specific weight on there and then seeing how many reps you can do. I think for girls it's just the bar. So how many can you do? Well, but it's how many can you do in a minute or something like that. And then the curl up test, which I'm still not a fan of, but we do it. You can have a vertical jump test, and I want to know what the stair sprint test is. That was a new one for me. Has anybody ever done that one? I've never really been in a place that had enough stairs. Like usually you would do that on I would assume like a football stadium where they got to sprint up a bunch of stairs. And here's kind of the meat of everything in this one. Training programs should begin with a 10 to 15 minute warm up and end with a 5 to 10 minute cool down. I say the older you get, the more important that becomes. So that's why we train it into people very early to have some sort of warm up in there. My warm ups for basketball are usually basketball partialed. So they are warming up, they're just not doing it at full speed right away. Flexibility training, say the basketball team here, they all stand in a big circle around the middle court and they all stretch and they call out 1, 2, 3, and they echo back and forth. Not a bad thing. So you could do some dynamic stretching, some ballistic stretching as well. But be careful with ballistic stretching. Will be like Pilates and bouncing. So just be careful when you do that one. I probably just wouldn't do that unless you've trained your athletes to do it. Because you can go too far and cause problems. Like you tell somebody to touch their toes and they try to like bounce to go farther and farther and farther. That's where you get worried about somebody getting injured. So after you have them do some flexibility, then you would start some sort of resistance training. And that's safety is the most important thing, having them do it correctly. And then after you do that, then you would do your endurance type trainings with a lighter load and a shorter rest period. I don't know, I probably would before I do muscular endurance, I would probably swap those personally. Because I would do some strength training and then I would do my speed training. So like my plyometrics, which you can only do like 150 reps of total. So after you do like 5 exercises of 20, you're pretty close to that. Then I would jump into the endurance type stuff. And last thing, you would do your power training. So these would be like your Olympic things. They say to do the power, that plyometric is here. I still think I would put that before. That's just a personal preference more than anything. The book says to do it in this order, so just make sure you know if they have an essay question that that's the order they're asking for. All right. That is the meat of this. So I want you to find a partner you have not worked with this quarter. And go sit by them. Go. Because most of the time so this means somebody's going to have to get up and move. By the way, this is also part of your homework, so remember your answers. Or write them down now to make your life easier. Okay, so Mark is the starting quarterback for his high school football team. What type of muscular fitness should Mark have? So he's a quarterback. He's going to run, he's going to throw, that kind of thing. And what are some possible training methods that you would use for him? Talk to them, and I would write them down because this is part of your homework. Go.